I'm here to share the next time with you and to talk about the innovative opportunities that you have with massive open online courses as a delivery method, and also about an awesome subject, which is unmanned systems, aerial robotics, or drones, as most of you might know it. I myself have an education and an aviation background. I have been in the German Army officer and pilot for more than 14 years, and then I joined the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University a couple of years ago as full-time faculty, and I switched from manned aviation to unmanned aviation, and yeah, now I'm program chair for a small program, Bachelor of Science in Unmanned Systems Application. And I'm going to very shortly introduce Embry-Riddle before I get into the details of what a massive open online course is, and I'm going to share the insights of you. So how many of you have ever participated in a massive open online course? Can you see it? Ah, okay, that's very good. So we are Embry-Riddle, a university that's had since the beginning an approach to distance learning. So we started basically with on-presence campuses that we already have today in Daytona Beach, Florida, and in Prescott, Arizona, and then we switched in the 80s to a worldwide campus and to the distance learning, and we really started with VHS cassettes and DVDs and sent them to the students because they were distributed all over the world, because they were military students, and we needed to reach them, and therefore we started very early to go into distance learning. We are, until today, the largest fully accredited aviation specialized university worldwide. And I come from the worldwide campus, which is, other than our smaller two sister campuses in Prescott and in Daytona, worldwide distributed over 125 campus operations that we have 25,000 students in many, many degree programs. And we cover everything from aviation, aerospace for, so to say, the mission statement for productive careers and leadership roles in service around the world. So, I say the core is aviation, and of course unmanned systems belongs to that, because unmanned aircraft systems are a part of autonomy and robotics, but we also have everything other that is related to aviation. Cybersecurity, human factors, we have safety and management, space programs, 3 different colleges, arts and science, business, and aviation, where I come from. And we try to cover all the important questions by addressing the curriculum. And I'm responsible for the unmanned systems part. So many of my colleagues say that I'm going to make many, many pilots jobless in the future, because I teach the science of unmanned systems, maybe pilotless transport and passenger planes and drones and all these things. That is my specialty. And not only in our 2 degree programs about unmanned systems, bachelor and master, we use several novel technologies such as simulators, virtual labs, telepresence technologies. So we try to integrate all new technology because we have a very distributed student population worldwide. And I can really say that we have such a huge staff, and I get a very good support from my team. We have an instructional design department where over 20 people work with us to design courses, to update the curriculum, and those people are only instructional designers. They are not subject matter experts, but they are really, for me and for my colleagues there and for my adjunct professors who make a full course development from the scratch, starting with a complete empty course shell, developing course learning objectives, module objectives and everything, and that is a huge help. And this is the reason why we, I would say, touch every course that we have in our degree program all 2 or 3 years in order to update it, because this topic is so changing in a fast way, so we have to really get on the track with that. We also have full-time presence courses like, I would say, a brick and mortar university, where we offer courses in Berlin, for example, or in those 125 campuses worldwide. But when we go to online and distance learning, we can mix that a little bit. And then when we mix it, go from presence course also into online learning. We can also mix between synchronous and asynchronous. My courses that I have currently, I have students worldwide distributed, so starting from Pacific Standard Time to Singapore and Japan, so it's obviously not very very good possible to get everyone in the same virtual room together at the same time, because everybody has to be the night owl sometimes. So when we can do it and the cohort of students is large enough in a certain time zone, we try to bring them together and form an online office, or we meet over Adobe Connect, or we practice something that we call Eagle Vision. That can be Eagle Vision Classroom or Eagle Vision Home, where the students can sit together in one campus and the instructor will be at another premise and talks to them, or some of the students can be at home. And it works pretty good because we have to accommodate to the needs of the students. Like I said, we have a large student population background that is military, and in general, I would say the very large majority of our students are mid-career and full-time working while they are really going through our degree programs. And with that, we had a very good track record by producing and developing the curriculum, getting a good feedback from our graduates. Also, the student population is very diverse. Somebody who comes from a completely different area can go to another track. And we also ask frequently our alumni and also the future employers of our students if the outcome that we have is good enough, and also if the program outcomes have been met. And tracking of those facts is very, very important. We have a program assessment, we are fully accredited, and we can say that there is a very high employment rate with above average salaries. For such a mid-career investment for people, that is very important to track that and to be able to prove that. And there are just a few of the prizes and awards that we have been winning. So part of that, what we do in the online worldwide campus is what we call a specific massive open online course for a topic that we have in the curriculum already. So when we start from the scratch to develop something like this, and we do about 8 to 12 MOOCs per year in the whole College of Aeronautics. We have a certain number of supporters in our staff that talk with us, what can we implement, what can we do, what can be part of the MOOC. And that is an example, the banner here, from a recent MOOC that took place in January 2018. I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical details of that specific MOOC and tell you how it went. So obviously, if you have such a topic such as drones, where you have, I always say it's an information asymmetry. We have a very small number of people who know a lot, and then you have a very large population that knows not so much, maybe is biased, or people need to be educated, missing regulation, or even regulation vacuum, and that's very important to go in that topic. It's very interesting to design a course when you don't know who actually is the target audience. What is their starting point? You have to design such a course for people who come from different backgrounds, have different education previous. They can be experts, and then they can be total beginners. So that is one of the great challenges in designing such a course. And you have to really start from scratch, such as here explaining what is that actually we are talking about. So giving them a macro view, but giving them at the same time also at the right point a definition. So little bit of small education here. We're talking obviously about drones, small unmanned aircraft systems, not more than 25 kilogram. Interesting thing is that they can be remotely piloted or autonomous, and probably some of you have seen that they can be very disruptive for some applications. And that is not only aerial photography or aerial sensing in applications such as agriculture, but also logistics or many other things. Not to speak about the flying cars and the air taxis that you have probably heard about. So that topic is so new that the regulation is not able to compete with those developments. So we have, in many countries, no regulation at all. And we also have a very old regulation that comes from model flying, because remotely piloted airplanes have been around since the 70s, 80s, where people are flying in their RC model clubs. But the game changed a little bit, because those consumer drones that you see on the lower right corner, that is a DJI Mavic, they have very, very high level of autonomy. They can fly out of the box, GPS waypoint follow mode, and that is very, very important to get the people trained on that topic. And that's why we took up the challenge to develop the course for that. We had it now 3 times, this specific MOOC, and we are planning a repetition in mid-November. And because it's such a new topic and it's very important to get on the right things and educate the right points, we really try to reduce complexity to a certain amount by addressing key points. Because when you ask yourself what user group in unmanned aircraft system drones bears the bigger challenges, is it the private user or is it the commercial user? Which user group is most likely to do damage? And we concluded that due to the lack of education, people get a drone for Christmas and then maybe go to an area where they shouldn't fly, or they go to a short final of an airfield and they make a nice video, not because they are evil, but they don't know better. And that was one of the reasons why we went into that and really started from scratch, completely developing the course, which was planned and conducted for 2 weeks. So we started really with our instructional department, developing the goals, the outcomes, the activities, the measurements, and the lectures that we did. And then after a certain period of time, we went into announcement and outreach, marketing, so spread the word. And that was really a challenge because there are no specific channels for that topic to reach out to the people. You have the Academy of Model Aeronautics, you have the civil aviation authorities, and you have basically everyone who will be more or less likely be in contact with drones, or maybe someone who wants to use drones for commercial purposes in the future, or a sheriff department who wants to use drones for his purposes as well. So yeah, like I said, we kicked off the MOOC in canvas.net. That is a screenshot here that we have there, and it went pretty well, judging from the post-evaluations, and in every iteration we were able to add new content, have some lessons learned, what we can improve, and we also had first we had a certificate, and then we had a course record of completion. Why we did that, I will explain in a second. So those are the basic numbers from our last massive open online course that took place in January 2018. 4,330 students and enrollments. We had 16 instructors that supported. Those were basically our full-time faculty and adjunct faculty that did that. I promised them that the workload per instructor, because the was not more than maybe 5 to 10 hours per week. I wasn't sure if that met with all of them, but we distributed, for example, 8 persons only managing the discussion board in Module 1 and something like this, so the division of labor was very good. We had quizzes as assessment and around 5,000 discussion posts. Judging from the feedback, we also had, it was very good, and we also had some follow-ups. People were asking where could they get more information, what would be possible in the future for them, and if you put those user groups in a taxonomy, you can really say you have private and recreational users, you have commercial users, and public and educational users. And those, we were hopefully able to address all of their interests and concerns. So complexity management is been a discussion board with I don't know if you can see the numbers here, 1,800 inputs, not so easy, because you have to track all the conversations and threads. So we also needed to have a very good, closely, hourly monitoring of the discussion board, because we did not put into a threshold or a barrier for entry. And some people do enter such courses because they want to troll others, or they want to distract something, so we have to take care that we monitor something like this very closely. So we had a shift plan for course discussion board monitor and for the online office, and we had several opportunities for the students to ask questions in the Ask the Expert forum, and those were very, very lively discussions. And we really saw that in many countries, because the participants were not only from industrial countries, but also from threshold and developing countries, that there's a lack of regulation in many areas. So I would say in half of the countries worldwide, there is no regulation and laws about drones whatsoever. And that means that if there is a business opportunity, people are unsure how to use it, and our MOOC laid in many areas a little bit of a groundwork for further development, because we also had a yeah, I would say mentionable sample size of people who came from authorities, so civil aviation authorities who attended that MOOC for their educational purposes. So that was our worldwide distribution, and it was really interesting to see that people came from different parts of the world with different backgrounds, and since the majority of those modules, assignments in the 2 modules, 2 weeks was asynchronous, it was not a big factor that we have different time zones. But we really had to accommodate to different learning styles. We had a very populated discussion and forum and online office for basic technical questions, because not everybody is used to learn online, to navigate a platform like Canvas. Once you are used to that, it's pretty easy if you get the taxonomy, the ins and outs, but if it's the first time, it's gonna be a challenge for you, and then we developed tutorials on how to navigate and to put everything, because that course was self-paced, but also with different intermediate assessments where you need green check marks to continue to the next level. And if you don't have that check mark, you cannot continue. And also you needed a certain amount of percentage in the quizzes. So there were also questions in that area. And it's a lot of work also to monitor that in a certain area. So I said asynchronous, self-paced most of the time, but what you can do is to activate the people and to bring them together and actually discuss in a live session is do a webinar. So, you know, obviously webinars are live sessions where there is a host and a presenter, and we use the plugin from Adobe Connect in our courses so that we talk about specific topics. And here in our last iteration, we chose company examples. So we had one example from Germany, what I did, then we had Singapore and Brazil, and all of them were hosting the webinar from their, I mean, core working time, and people really entered there and then attended the live session, and then we also had a recording so that everybody who was asleep or wasn't able to attend was able to watch the recording later. There is the download for the webinar so that they can watch it later. But it was really great to see how the discussion and the questions really kicked off, and then we had to limit it to the end that so the host was able to conclude and finalize his statements. So it was a really great experience to do that, and we will continue to do that in the future, to put in a asynchronous course, also synchronous parts, to bring the people together, to have a more direct learning outcome. So what is also something we did so to say, benefits, giving people certain records and artifacts. And this is the one from the last year, where they were able to put in their own name, and then there was a signage, and then we used several methods to send those as a document to them. And we had to change the name from certificate to record of completion, because if it's such a new topic and you give a person a certificate, and some people want to do things with that certificate. And we had actually persons who went to their civil aviation authorities, to their government in their country, mostly in that case threshold and developing countries, and said, hey, look, I have a drone pilot license, and now I can do business with my own drone shop. And it was about to get a little bit out of hand, and that's why we had to change it to record of completion, because it's very important what kind of artifact you give to the people and what they will do with it. So just as a recommendation, if you will do that one time, think about what the people will have. They obviously want something at the end that they attended, that they successfully attended, but it can be critical if you give it the wrong name. So what have been the overall benefits in our case? The last MOOCs that we did in this topic, I was there as a discussion facilitator. I was monitoring the online office, and then I was doing the webinar. It was really great to see how in the discussion boards, when the discussion kicked off and there was a thread development, that they really were able to cross-pollinate each other and tell them about, hey, we have this regulation, we have that regulation. And it's really important in such a new topic that bears a lot of danger, not because of the yeah, so to say, inherent dangers of purposeful misuse, but also for the unpurposeful misuse to distribute the knowledge. And not only in aviation, but also in computer science and in robotics, there's a close correlation between the social welfare, the education, and the disposable income. And we can see that from the recent MOOCs, there have been people that really started something out of that, maybe forming a startup, maybe did a STEM project for children in schools or something else. So we tried to really keep track of that. And talking about STEM, we sometimes we had in this particular case also high school teachers who attended with their whole class, their physics class, our MOOC. That is possible because it's open and free for everyone. And they really were able to get something out of that. And the ignition for the interest in that topic is really great to see. And because of the interesting level of regulation worldwide, you really saw that people realized, okay, this technology is here, it gets out of the box, and it's here to stay, and we need to do something about it. We can adopt existing regulations from other countries. We have to have some kind of regulation after all. And other people really thought, okay, there's actually a business opportunity here, and I can do something about it. And because we are a aviation related university, we have always had a strong outreach and a commitment to safety and to airmanship, and that if you can bring that down to earth to those people who are flying drones for several purposes, make them use checklists, conduct mission planning, debriefings, all these things that are important to increase safety. And we told them how to do that, giving them templates and all these things, so that was very successful in doing that. And after all, but it's really only the last point, but we were really able, and that's also a good recommendation, to recruit and interest new students out of that, that were, yeah, showed what is possible, not only in the instance of online learning, distance learning, where you can connect to the platform of canvas.net a couple of times per week, spend some hours there, do your work, and then do your full-time job at the same time. And that was really, really good as the outcome to see that something like this was possible. The next one is going to be in November. We are planning for that currently. We are setting up the webinars that we have. We have one in Australia. I'm not sure how I will manage the time zone for that, but we have some in Switzerland and one in Portugal. And this time we will talk more about best practices for new users and will distribute the interest and background of those participants in the area of commercial, private, public, and educational background, because they have all different necessities for knowledge and needs. So we will be able to make it a little bit more modular for the participants. And we also plan to integrate cybersecurity, privacy, and data protection, which is obviously very important to bring in the topic here, because most of those drones for commercial purpose or for private purpose have cameras, and not since only GDPR, but this is obviously a big factor, right? So you can be really able to disturb people seriously, and you will be able to break some laws, not only aviation and property laws, but also privacy laws in this case. So in a nutshell, I would really say if you have an interesting topic to talk about, if you want to introduce your institution, introduce the specific instance of online distance learning, you should use massive open online courses really, because like I said, it's a lot of work in preparation and a lot of work by the conduct, but it really pays off because you will get really new user groups and reach audiences you have never reached before. And that's why that is my strong advice and recommendation to do as such. We were really successful in many areas. We get a good feedback. We did also MOOCs in areas of aircraft accident investigation, safety management. The next one that will start this week is called Aviation is Your Future. This is a MOOC that will be addressing kids from the age from 8 to 12. And this will show young people the opportunities in the aviation sector, the jobs that are there. And we look forward to a next academic year with a lot of interesting MOOCs. And maybe some of you will join me in the MOOC that I just put there, and it will be interesting for you to see how it works. Okay, again, my name is Chris Janke. I love teaching, and if you do the same, I welcome you to participate in a MOOC and do a MOOC, and for now I will thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Chris, thanks for the presentation. Just a quick question, given that you've got a global reach with this particular MOOC, I know that there are some aspects of GDPR in the US that are more stringent than in Europe, and I know also that closed captioning has been a requirement in the US for videos for some time. So did you have to take account of the American requirements when you were publishing?
So the question was, what kind of data privacy regulation did we integrate?
No, just looking at globalization. So you have although in fact you're a US-based institution anyway, but did you have to keep in mind the different territories and the different requirements for the educational rather than the technical and legal side of the platform?
Yes. So in the educational part, not only in the MOOC, but also we have those also in our degree programs. We are aware that there are different regulations, not only regarding privacy, data protection, intellectual property, and these things, but also where are the servers? So all these things that we address, and Embry-Riddle is an American entity, but it's, for us it's always important to keep track with that challenges about those regulations. And yeah, but it's not easy to keep track with all the regulations. That's why we plan to have a full module section on privacy and data protection in the next MOOC, because it's very different. And I mean, continental Europe, UK, and America, so there are different approaches to CCTV, for example, and or other things, public filming and making pictures of people, and it's important to address that and to educate where you are and what legal regime you are under.
Just to find out your organization plan to expand and have partnership in Africa, do you have anything in place for that?
If we are planning that, or?
If you have any plan to expand to Africa, yes.
Well, I'm not the president of the university, but yeah, I would say that we are open to all kinds of collaboration. We have campus collaborations in many parts of the world, and as Africa, for example, there are many countries that are threshold countries, and as I said, there is a connection between aviation, prosperity of aviation, and disposable income. So if there is no flight connection to a country, that is obviously not good for the economy, and there are a lot of people to be educated for the commercial carriers, for the civil aviation authorities, so something like this would be definitely interesting, and I could forward your contact and request to the people in charge there. I would be happy to do so.
You had a high number of students participate. Where did you get your enrollments from, or where did you advertise the course?
The MOOC?
Yes. In the MOOC, yes.
So, yes, we did advertise on platforms that are applicable to this topic. Can be aviation related, can be robotics related. We do the normal social media activities on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And yeah, so I think it's not really, and also that gets harder because of GDPR, because you cannot have a 2,000 contact email spreadsheet, not anymore. So yeah, so we have also a very good connected community that people say, okay, if you reach one who is in an influence group and then he tells everyone else, okay, look here, maybe I'm a member of 8 different Slack channels in different areas and branches, and people tell, okay, look, this is interesting, spread the word. So yeah, we have also a full department that is responsible for marketing and social media outreach, and they support us. Yeah, so they are really helpful for us to do that, and I can understand if you're coming from a smaller institution, you have to develop a plan to do so. We also have in the MOOC 3 full-time social media coordinators who do only the social media activities. Of course, not full-time. Full-time means 5 to 10 hours per week, but you have to really give people the jobs and tell them, okay, this is your task, discussion facilitator, social media activities, outreach, and all these things. So it's good to spread the word about these things in the current state of online connectivity, because if you reach the right channels, people will know about, and then they will participate.